What we're going to do now is to begin to validate the data that is going to be sent from our client side of our Ionic 4 application down to our server side, which is our laravel application. So what we want to do first of all is we want to validate. So we're going to say declare a new variable and call it validator, and this is going to be equal to, remember we imported a laravel validator class right here, all right? And so we want to use this validator, and we want to make kind of check or make an not really an authentication. We want to check the user input. So we're going to get all the requests, and we are going to check the values, and the values that we will be needing here, which is we're going to get that from our model. So let's just go back into our model. And we're going to need the name, the email, the password, and then the image which we are going to use for our facial recognition. All right, so let me just copy this so that I don't forget. All right, and I'm just going to paste this here, and don't worry, I'll get it off later. So now let's just enter, have the name, and for the name we actually want this to be required, and we also want this to be a string. Okay, so basically what this does is just make sure that the name field is not going to be empty, and it is also going to be a string. And then the next is going to be the email. All right, and the email is going to be required and also should be of type email. So it must be an email. And the next will be our password. And our password, we want to just make a couple restrictions to our password. Of course, it has to be required. And also it has to be a string, and it has to be minimum length of no less than 6 characters. So minimum length of no less than 6 characters. All right, and now what we can do after this is we're going to check if this validator fails. What do we want to send as our response text, all right, and our status? So if validator, basically, if this validator fails, all right, if validator fails, we want to return a JSON response back to our user saying a response which is going to say success should be false. So we're going to tell the user that this was not successful. And not just that, we are also going to send a message. So we're going to return a message of the input fields that are empty or that didn't meet our requirement. All right, so validator the messages and to an array. We basically want to return this as an array back to the user. And the last thing I want to do is to set the header to 400 or response code to 400 so that the user can know also that the transaction was not successful. All right. So now, once this is all set and done, and we are now sure that this is an email, the next thing we want to do is to check if this email that the user is using to register already exists. Okay, so I can just remove this now. So let's check if the email that this user is using to register already exists. And what we're going to do is we are going to use some eloquence here. So we just say check, we call a variable called check email. And this is going to be, we're going to get our model, our user model, and we are going to say where email, all right, matches the email that the user has already passed. All right, request email, and we are going to return the count. And lest I forget, we need to use the request. We need to pass the request here as a parameter. That way, it would allow us to be able to use it within this function. All right. So now, with that being done, we can now say if I don't know if we should use no. Let's just use a normal. If I wanted to use what did they call it again? I've forgotten. More like I can't remember, but let me just show you what I mean at this. It usually minimizes the number of code you have to write. And then, so if this is true, you write this here. If it's false, return that. But let's just go to normal if else. I can't remember the name right now, and I can't believe I can't remember the name. Now, if that email is not equal to 0, all right, what that simply means is that this email actually exists. So we want to go with equal in type and value, not just equal in type. So if check email is equal to 0, we want to not equal to 0, we want to return a response. Right, Jason. And then I just want to pause right here and say something. For PHP applications, I found out that PHP Storm provides way more functionality than VS Code. I don't know, it's just my opinion. I think if you've used PHP Storm to write PHP applications and then come back to VS Code, there's a little bit of okay, but that's by the way. Now, but for this tutorial, we're going to be using VS Code. So now, what is going to happen is if the user's email already exists, which is if if it's not equal to 0, want to return a response and a status of 400, which is telling us that this did not go through. And let's just copy this here, and we are going to paste this here, and our message is going to change. We are going to say this email is already taken, so we're going to say sorry, this email is already taken. All right, and now we can save that. And after we have actually checked the user's email, the next thing we need to check is to check whether the user actually uploaded a profile alongside or an image alongside his registration details. And how we're going to do that is, there's something I also forgot, which is really simple, is the fact that, now first of all, I like to say this, the user is going to be uploading a base64 encoded string. All right, the image is going to be converted to base64 encoded string from our Ionic application, and the base64 encoded string, we are going to get the base64 encoded string in our laravel application, and we're going to convert the base64 encoded string back to an image. We're going to send the file to a folder, and we are also going to save the name in the database. Okay, so we're not going to be using the normal file, we're going to use the base64 encoded string. So what we are going to do here now is also to say image, because remember our image is coming as a base64 encoded string, and we just need to require that. That's just all. So now what we can do now is to let me just give a little bit of space here. Now what we can do now is just to get the profile image. So the first thing we want to do is to generate a unique name for the image. So we're going to call this generated name, and generated name is going to use the built-in unique ID PHP function, and we want to concatenate that with an underscore and maybe a time, just to make the name really unique, right? So that there's no way two names can rename it. Then a date that actually has the year, the month, and the day. And we can just write at the end also append an underscore, then img. Okay, so now this is going to be our unique name for this image. That is going to be our very unique name for this image. So the next thing that we want to do after generating the unique name for the image is we want to actually check what kind of file this is. All right, so we want to restrict the kind of images that the user is allowed to upload to JPEG, to JPEG, to PNG, and maybe to GIF. So the first thing we want to do is to get the contents. So I'm going to call this file bin, and we're going to say file get content. So we want to basically get the contents of the base64 encoded string, and this would be equal to, we need to declare a variable here. We'll call this base64 encoded string, and our base64 encoded string will be equal to our image. All right, our image here has been passed. So our base64 encoded string will be equal to our image. So we will get the contents. So we're going to call this base64 encoded string. And after we have gotten that, we also want to get the MIME content type, or the MIME type of the image. And we're going to use a PHP function, which is MIME content type. And actually in the PHP ecosystem at some point this function was deprecated, but after a while it was revived again, and I really like the fact that it was revived because it's a nice simple function that gets the job done. So we want to pass the base64 encoded string. All right, don't worry, you're going to see why we will have to get the contents and not just get the string. All right, so now the next thing we want to do here is to check the MIME type, and then before we can actually append the file extension to the file name that we just generated here. So we can check the MIME type first of all by saying if the image type is a PNG file, all right, let's start with the PNG first. The image type is a PNG file. Is a PNG file. Then we want to say file name will be equal to generated name, concatenate it with dot png. All right, concatenate that with dot png, and then we need to declare file name here. So what I'm going to do is just say file name should be equal to an empty string. And now if the image type is a JPEG file, which is the MIME type, what we simply want to do is say file name because it generated name dot jpg, and then the next one should be image slash jpeg, and if that is equal to the MIME type. So if the MIME type is a JPEG file, we want to file name should be equal to generated name dot jpeg, and we want to add a dot here too, jpeg, and place a dot here, and semicolon at the end, and another else if file name, or should we add a GIF file? No, I think it should be enough. So basically we're just going to accept only PNG, JPG, and JPEG files, and any other file extension outside of that may be an image file. What we can do is simple. We can just say else we want to return. So pardon me to copy this. So I'll just copy from here down to here and come down to here and paste that we want to return the 400 false, and we're going to say invalid file type, only PNG, JPEG, and JPG files are allowed. All right, and now once we have been able to validate down to this point, what we can now do is to perform our upload. So we're going to say this. So we're going to get our user model. Let's see, what do we call our user model? We call this user. So this user, and we want to have the name should be equal to the request, the name, and this user, the email should be equal to request and email. All right, and then for the password, we want to hash the password. So we are going to hash the password. We're going to use a function called hashMake. So this user password will be hash make. So we're going to hash this password, request password. All right, and after that, I think that should be all. Name, email, password, name, email, password. Okay, so after we have done all that, we want to save our generated name to the image field in our table or in our users table. We're going to say this user image will be equal to file name, not generated name, file name. All right, now that we have actually okay, so let's save this. Now this user save. Okay, so now after saving this, let me just be sure, just align that. So now after saving this, what we can now do is to actually upload the file. So we're going to use file put content. So basically what file put content does is it collects a file and then it moves the file to a particular folder. And as you can see right up here, it tells us that this first variable is a string, which is the file name, and then the second variable is the file that we want to write, or the file that we basically want to upload. Okay, so basically what the the file get content does for us is it gets the basics for string. All right. So now what we are going to do here is to simply pass the URL where we actually want to upload this image. We're going to call this profile images, and the name of our file, which is file name, and the file that I actually want to upload, file bin. We can, after all this, we can now return a response. Return response. Oh no, I don't. Let me see if yes. So this should be true, and the message should be user registered successfully. Oh, I forgot this is supposed to return 200, not 400. Yeah, that's supposed to be 200, not 400. So in the next video, what we are going to be doing basically is to use Postman to test our API to be sure that everything perfectly is working.